Flight attendant, arms crossed, smirks. "I don't care who you are, lady. Get off my plane." Black woman, stunned, voice shaking. "You're making a mistake. A big one." Laughs mockingly, rolling her eyes. "Oh, please, what are you going to do? Buy the airline?" A deep voice interrupts from behind. "Actually, she doesn't have to." The entire plane falls into silence as every passenger turns toward the source of the voice. Their jaws drop. Watch until the end to see the ultimate karma moment when the flight attendant learns the shocking truth. What would you have done in this situation? The atmosphere inside JFK International Airport was bustling with hurried footsteps, rolling luggage, and the constant hum of announcements echoing through the terminals. Travelers scurried through the wide corridors, some eager to reach their gates, others exhausted from long-haul flights. Among them was Ava Mitchell, a poised black woman in her early 40s, exuding an air of quiet confidence. She wore an elegant yet comfortable navy blue pantsuit, her dark curls cascading neatly over her shoulders. Ava wasn't just another first-class passenger. She was a name whispered in high circles, a self-made entrepreneur who built one of the most successful tech companies in the country. But right now, she was just a weary traveler, looking forward to returning home after a grueling week of high-stakes business meetings. Her 15-year-old son, Caleb, stood beside her, lazily scrolling through his phone. Tall for his age, with an athletic build and a sharp mind, Caleb was growing into a young man who had inherited both his mother's determination and his late father's wisdom. Unlike Ava, who carried herself with measured restraint, Caleb wasn't one to stay silent in the face of injustice. They had first-class tickets on Flight 802 to Los Angeles, a simple journey, at least it was supposed to be. At the check-in counter, a flight attendant named Rebecca Hayes glanced at them with a raised eyebrow, her professional smile barely concealing an unmistakable air of condescension. She was in her mid-30s, blonde hair pulled into a tight bun, a crisp navy blue uniform hugging her slim frame. Her posture screamed authority, but also something else: judgment. She exchanged a glance with another flight attendant, Lisa, before leaning forward with a saccharine, sweet voice. "Are you sure you're in the right line?" she asked, her eyes flicking toward the first-class boarding section as if they didn't belong. Ava, used to moments like these, didn't flinch. She simply handed over their passports and boarding passes. "Yes, we are." "Seats 2A and 2B, she responded coolly. Rebecca examined the tickets, her lips pursing slightly. She hesitated just for a moment before finally scanning them in, but there was something about the way she did it, a deliberate slowness, a silent message. As they stepped away, Caleb muttered under his breath, "Why do people always assume we don't belong?" Ava sighed, squeezing his shoulder gently. "Some people see the world through a narrow lens, but remember, how we respond to it defines who we are." Passengers began lining up as first-class boarding was announced. Ava and Caleb moved toward the front, joining a queue filled mostly with middle-aged businessmen, high-profile professionals, and a few socialites clutching designer handbags. As they reached the boarding gate, Rebecca was there again, scanning each ticket. When she got to Ava, she hesitated. Again. Can I see that one more time?" Ava narrowed her eyes. "Is there a problem?" Rebecca forced a tight smile. "Oh, no problem at all. Just being thorough. Security measures?" Caleb groaned audibly. "Yeah, sure, because we look so dangerous." Rebecca ignored him, but her dismissive glance said it all. Once aboard, the luxurious first-class cabin was a stark contrast to economy. Plush leather seats, ambient lighting, and a menu offering champagne before takeoff. Ava and Caleb settled into their seats, trying to shake off the subtle hostility they had just encountered. But it wasn't over. Not even close. As passengers got comfortable, Rebecca and Lisa made their rounds, assisting guests and ensuring everything was in place. But when it came to Ava and Caleb, her entire demeanor shifted. She walked over, crossing her arms. "Excuse me, ma'am. I'm going to have to ask you to move." Ava blinked, confused. Move? Our seats are assigned, 2A and 2B. Rebecca's smile was tight, forced. There's been a reassignment. These seats are reserved for a VIP passenger. Caleb shot up in his seat. You're kidding, right? We checked in. These are our seats. Passengers around them started to glance over. Some whispered, others simply watched. The tension was thick, like a storm about to break. Rebecca exhaled sharply, voice lowering in forced patience. Sir, please don't raise your voice. I can get security involved if necessary. Ava remained calm, but her fingers curled tightly around the armrest. I need to speak to the supervisor. Rebecca's eyes flickered. Hesitation, annoyance. That won't be necessary. If you just cooperate, we can avoid making this a scene. Ava leaned forward, her voice low but firm. If anyone is making a scene, it's you. Caleb wasn't having it. Oh, so it's security when we stand our ground? I bet if we looked different, this wouldn't be happening. The murmurs grew. Passengers were now actively paying attention. Some even pulled out their phones. A slow tension was building. One wrong move and this would explode. Rebecca's calm facade cracked just a little. That's it. I'm calling the captain. With that, she turned sharply on her heels and stormed toward the cockpit. Ava exhaled slowly. This is going to get worse before it gets better. Caleb clenched his jaw. Yeah, but at least now everyone's watching. As the camera slowly zooms out, passengers' faces are mixed, some in silent agreement, others shifting uncomfortably, unsure where they stand. Rebecca's heels clicked sharply against the airplane's floor as she stormed toward the front, her face contorted with irritation. Passengers turned their heads, sensing the tension in the air. Some reached for their phones, pressing record while others whispered among themselves. Captain Daniel Carter emerged from the cockpit, his brows furrowing as he took in the scene. Rebecca wasted no time. Captain, we have a situation. These passengers are refusing to move. We need to follow protocol. Carter's eyes flickered between Rebecca and the two passengers in question, Ava and Caleb Mitchell. Their expressions were firm, determined. What's the issue? Carter asked evenly. Are their tickets invalid? Rebecca folded her arms. There must have been a mistake. Seats 2A and 2B were reserved for a VIP guest. But these passengers... She trailed off, glancing at Ava and Caleb with a barely concealed sneer. That was it. Caleb had enough. He shot up from his seat. A mistake. We paid for these seats. You just don't want us sitting here. Ava, usually composed, felt a fire rising in her chest. Captain Carter, can you please confirm that our seats are valid? We will not be moved simply because she decides we don't belong here. Carter exhaled, shifting uncomfortably. All eyes were on him. If he handled this the wrong way, it would blow up. But Rebecca wasn't backing down. If they refuse to cooperate, we'll have to remove them from the plane, she insisted. And just like that, the situation spiraled out of control. Rebecca grabbed the in-flight communication device and barked into it. Security to Gate 14, we have a non-compliant passenger issue. Ava's grip on her son's wrist tightened. She could feel it. This wasn't just about seats anymore. This was about something bigger. Caleb, seething, muttered under his breath, "Non-compliant. We're just sitting here." From the back, a woman whispered to her husband, "This doesn't seem right. I'm recording everything." A middle-aged man watching the scene unfold sighed. They should sue the airline for this. But others? They stayed silent. Some even gave Rebecca approving nods. Moments later, two airport security officers stepped onto the plane. Dressed in dark uniforms, their presence alone was enough to heighten the tension. One of them, Officer Bradley, spoke first. "Ma'am, sir, if you don't comply, we will have to escort you off the aircraft." Caleb clenched his fists. "For what?" Rebecca smirked, folding her arms. "They're refusing to follow instructions, officer. We need these seats vacated immediately." Ava sat taller, her voice cold and clear. "Then tell me, officer, what policy have we violated? Are we a security threat, or are we just in your way?" The air became thick with unspoken words. Passengers murmured, shifting uncomfortably. Some nodded in agreement. Others nervously avoided eye contact. Officer Bradley hesitated but stood his ground. "Ma'am, if you don't comply, we'll be forced to remove you." Caleb rose from his seat, chest heaving. "Don't you dare touch us." And then it happened. Just as the officers reached for Ava and Caleb, a deep, commanding voice boomed from the entrance. "Hold it right there!" Everything stopped. Walking down the aisle, a middle-aged man in a sharp suit carried a file in his hand. His expression was unreadable as he strode past stunned passengers. "What the hell is going on here, Miss Hayes?" Rebecca stiffened. "Sir, I was handling a—" The man cut her off. "Were you? Because as far as I can see, we have a serious problem." Rebecca swallowed hard. The man's voice boomed through the cabin. "These passengers, do they have valid tickets?" Bradley nodded hesitantly. "Yes, sir, their tickets are in order." The man narrowed his gaze. "Then why are they being removed?" Passengers held their breath. Rebecca stumbled over her words. "It was just an oversight. I was making space for—" The man cut her off again. "An oversight? That's interesting because I'm the CEO of this airline." A visible shockwave rippled through the crowd. Rebecca turned pale. I didn't realize—" The CEO shook his head, exhaling sharply. "No, you didn't. And that's exactly the problem." Passengers began whispering. Some clapped. Justice was unfolding before their eyes. The CEO turned to Ava and Caleb. "Mrs. Mitchell, Mr. Mitchell, on behalf of this airline, I deeply apologize. Your seats were never in question, and believe me, there will be consequences for this." The CEO glared at Rebecca. "Miss Hayes, we need to talk. You will not be continuing on this flight." Rebecca stumbled back. "Sir, please, this was a misunderstanding." The CEO's voice was ice cold. "Oh, I agree, and it's one that won't be repeated." The passengers erupted in cheers. Caleb grinned at his mother. "Guess we won, Mom." Ava smiled faintly.